For many, retirement can be a great time to rekindle a little romance or perhaps even to find new love. But at the same time, retirement can put a different type of stress on a relationship. Money problems themselves can trigger that stress or make it worse. So it's extremely important to be prepared. Yes, it's that time again, time to tune out the hype and focus on the facts. Facts that matter to you, the income generation. Let's get started. Get ready to separate reality from myth.
With us, David Scranton.
David Scranton.
David Scranton.
David Scranton.
But David Scranton says, hey, not so fast.
How does it affect the markets? How does it affect the economy? Thanks to efficiencies in new technology and a staff of veteran analysts and portfolio managers, Sound Income Strategy strives to set new standards and bring institutional style investing to your portfolio. Many couples look forward to retirement as a time to reconnect. After decades of working and decades of raising children, they want to rekindle some of the romance that their relationship once had before all those obligations took priority. And that's great. And many couples are indeed able to do it. But it doesn't happen by accident. Maintaining or strengthening a relationship in retirement takes planning. Retirement brings unique new challenges to marriages, partnerships, and romance in general. And many are related, at least in part, to your financial plan. We're going to be discussing some of those challenges on today's show and sharing tips on how to prepare for them also. We're also going to be talking about some of the financial issues related to finding new romance in retirement. And joining us will be best-selling author, speaker, life coach, and dating expert, Lisa Copeland.
Well, truthfully, it's because I didn't know what I was doing. I spent a lot of years just crying because I did not understand men. I did not understand how to date. I had no clue.
Along with Sherelle Ashfort, a matchmaker with more than 25 years of experience.
I was recruited for this at a time when there were no matchmakers. I fit all the bill for everything that a matchmaker should be. And I had, in my business, learned about personalities.
But first, let's talk about some of the ways that things can change after two people in a long-term relationship have both stopped working. Many of us probably know a couple that seems happier than ever together in retirement. But we also know that that's not always the case. Many couples simply don't live happily ever after once they both retired. Why? Because they end up leading separate lives or spending so much time together that they drive each other absolutely bonkers. Some get divorced even after decades and decades of marriage. As the U.S. divorce rate overall has risen, divorce among adults aged 50 and over has roughly doubled since the 1990s, according to a Pew Research Center report. But what exactly are some of the main reasons for relationship problems after retirement? Well, one of the main ones is simply complacency. People become so preoccupied with setting up the financial bedrock of retirement that they don't really take the time to think about interpersonal challenges. They don't think about the lifestyle change. That's according to psychologist Robert Bornstein, co-author of the book, How to Age in Place. Bornstein says, part of the problem is a couple may go from being together 2 or 3 hours a day to being together 24/7, and it happens all at once. Even if you love this person dearly, says Bornstein, you're not used to being that close all the time. You have to plan for it. We'll be talking more about that planning process later on in the show. Another common scenario for relationship troubles occurs when one member of a couple has been working and the other has been at home. The non-working partner may suddenly feel like the retired person is intruding in his or her space, which psychologists say can lead to feelings of resentment, stress, and even depression. A different type of challenge often occurs with both partners have been working for many years. In that case, their jobs may have kept them separated for 60 or more hours a week. And during that time, they may have been growing apart without realizing it. As psychologist Willard Harley explains it, if you have gotten used to independent lifestyles while working, all of a sudden you're faced with the fact that you have very little in common and no longer feel compatible. Harley, who's the author of the bestseller His Needs, Her Needs, says the challenge of adjusting to a loss of identity after leaving a job and rediscovering your identity as a couple is one of the major causes of stress in retirement, right up there with financial issues and healthcare concerns. Now, all of these issues need to be considered and need to be discussed in the process of planning for retirement. And yes, all are interrelated to some degree. Whatever the root cause of stress in a relationship might be, financial problems are only likely to make it worse, and vice versa. When financial matters are settled and a couple has a sense of financial security and reliable income, yes, they're more likely to be able to focus on reconnecting and on dealing with any other source of stress in a relationship. However, when they're worried about income or worried about losing money in a major stock market drop, that can add to their stress and makes it all the more difficult to rebuild or to maintain a strong bond. Improving the odds of enjoying happily ever after relationship in retirement and avoiding relationship problems comes down to basically two things: planning and communication. Now, if you're a regular viewer, you've heard me talk frequently about the importance of setting specific retirement goals. Simply put, it's one of the most crucial steps in building a successful retirement plan. Now, as today's topic makes clear, that means setting individual goals that you are both aware of and that you both approve of, and your agreed upon goals as a couple. Thomas Foppel, a San Francisco-based financial therapist, recommends that couples ask themselves certain specific questions in the goal-setting process, questions that anticipate both financial and interpersonal changes. Some of these questions include: do either of you need or want to work part-time in retirement? If so, is it based on financial need or is it based upon a psychological need for purpose or fulfillment? Next, what are some of the things that each of you know you want to do in retirement? You want to travel more? Do you want to spend more time at home, volunteer, go back to school? Make a list and identify the objectives that you both share. And next, ask each other how you see your roles at home changing, if at all. Does your wife expect to do more housework? Does your husband expect to do more home-cooked meals? Finally, talk openly about your biggest fears and worries going into retirement, whether they're about money, health, or your relationship. Again, honest, two-way communication is absolutely essential. If you're near or in retirement, head over to theincomegeneration.com and download your special report written specifically for the needs of the income generation, again, those born before 1966. I'm David Scranton, and you've been watching The Income Generation. Now it's time to bring in our first guest, best-selling author, speaker, life coach, and dating expert, Lisa Copeland. She's the author of the Amazon bestseller, The Winning Dating Formula for Women Over 50, 7 Steps to Attract Quality Men. Lisa, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Oh, thank you for having me here. This is such a big topic. I'm happy to help you out.
So what drew you to becoming a consigliere, if you will, for ladies over the age of 50 who are on the dating scene?
Well, truthfully, it's because I didn't know what I was doing. I spent a lot of years just crying because I did not understand men. I did not understand how to date. I had no clue. And I just didn't know what was going on. So I just cried a lot. And I wanted a place to get support and couldn't find it. Nobody was helping people in their 50s date. They were all really young people that were helping young people.
So so you're probably an advocate of the old men are from Mars, women are from Venus, that just like you don't understand men, I'm sure I could speak for a lot of our men viewers that we might feel the same in reverse. And I guess that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it so interesting, right?
I think it makes it fun, but it could be really frustrating. And the reason is because we think from different ways of thinking. Like, women are community oriented. Mm-hmm. So we do what's best for the community. And men, especially over 50, are what I call hero oriented. They truly have a desire to make a woman happy. You know that old saying, happy wife, happy life? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's where a lot of men over 50 are. And they really just want a chance. And women are not always giving them a chance. And women treat them like women. And it's very difficult for both sexes to connect because of that.
So it's a little bit of the old hunter-gatherer, it sounds like. I remember one of the funniest plays I've ever gone to see. I'm sure you've seen it. is defending the caveman.
Yeah.
And for our viewers, I can highly recommend that. If you ever get Defending the Caveman coming to your city, you should definitely go see it. It's a great play, a skit on the differences between men and women. But it's kind of like, it's the hunter-gatherer syndrome. Like you said, the gatherer is more community-oriented, whereas the men are more unilaterally focused. And if that man is in love with a lady, then his whole focus is on her, almost at the detriment of everything else. And that's kind of sort of what you're saying in a way, is it not?
It can be, but it also is the way that just the communication is very different, because men communicate differently from women. You're right. Men are very, because you're a man, you're really single focused, whereas a woman can watch what's going on in the room and all around the room, whereas most men can't. And what's so difficult is a woman will be upset about something and she expects a man to recognize that right away. But if a man is single focused on the task he's doing, then he doesn't see it. And she gets extremely frustrated because she expects him to, when she's standing there crying and he doesn't see it, to see her crying. But we as women make the mistake of thinking that men know what we're thinking. And you have no way of knowing what we're thinking. You don't think the way we think.
It's interesting because what you're describing affects not just men and women over 50. It affects men and women of all ages. But in the 30 seconds we have left in this block, tell our viewers, why is it especially difficult for those of us over 50?
Well, you mean to date or to understand each other?
From a dating perspective, what are those more difficult challenges? We'll at least get into it in this segment and we could finish up after the commercial break.
I think the biggest challenge is everybody's looking for perfection now that doesn't exist. And that's because they've either been hurt or they failed in a marriage and they don't want to fail again. Yeah,
and it's tough for us people get on and get set in their ways. And we need to take a quick commercial break, but we're looking forward to having you back in just a minute. And you stay with us too. We'll be back here with more on the Income Generation. I'm Dave Scranton, and yes, we'll be right back.
David J. Scranton, Amazon bestselling author, money manager, and national TV host, is on a mission to educate baby boomers about the need to shift from growth to income. If you're at or near retirement, focusing on income over growth can make all the difference in the quality of your retirement. Each week, David educates America on his Newsmax TV show, The Income Generation, where he provides special reports and more to teach baby boomers about the income model.
Call now for a free copy of David's latest book. Go to soundincomestrategies.com/income to find out more.
For behind-the-scenes photos, retirement planning tips, and upcoming giveaways, follow The Income Generation show on Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch video clips, guest interviews, and to catch up on past episodes.
If you're near or in retirement, head over to theincomegeneration.com and download your special report written specifically for the needs of the income generation. Again, those born before 1966. I'm David Scranton, and you've been watching The Income Generation.
Hey, I love these pants. Who the hell are you to give them the goodwill?
There are holes in the seat. You've worn through them.
Then you can't give them the goodwill. That's bad will.
There are other pants in the dryer. Put on one of those.
No, these are the pants.
You are not wearing those pants, Frank. You're just like an animal.
Animals don't even like pants. You did that on purpose.
Oh, I did not.
You're the animal.
Now on television, yes, bickering couples can actually be very funny. And the fact is, sometimes a noisy or combative relationship works for two particular people. They may argue a lot, but underneath it all, the affection is still there and the bond is strong. In other words, there really is no single recipe or single blueprint for a good marriage or relationship. But when a couple is having problems, obviously they both know it. Now, some might try to ignore it, which usually only makes matters worse, while others take steps to try to fix the problem, even if it includes marriage counseling. Let's face it, problems can arise at any stage of a relationship, but as we discussed, retirement often brings new stresses and new challenges. These stresses and challenges can be worsened by poor financial planning and poor planning in general. So it's important to make your relationship a part of the conversation throughout the entire retirement planning process. But what if you haven't done that? What if you're already in retirement and just now realizing that money worries or estrangement or some other issue is actually putting a strain on what you thought was a solid relationship? Well, the first thing you can do is take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. The second thing is to make a joint decision not to ignore the situation or try to pretend that everything's fine when it's really not. You wouldn't ignore a persistent cough or an unexplained ache. It's a sign your health might just be in jeopardy. Constant arguments, uncomfortable silences, intentionally avoiding each other, depression, those are all potential signs that your relationship's health is in jeopardy and it needs attention. If things are very bad or have been building for quite some time, then yes, marriage counseling might actually be your best option. You know, a good marriage counselor can be anyone from a licensed psychologist who specializes in relationships to your local minister or other spiritual leader. You should pick someone you both trust and you both feel comfortable with. If the problem seems less advanced, there are things you can do to help get your relationship back on track, perhaps without counseling. For example, if arguing or disagreements seem to be escalating, psychologist Willard Harley recommends that you make a new pact to never do anything without, quote, enthusiastic agreement between the two of you. Here's how he explains the concept. When a couple is trying to make a decision or resolve a conflict, they both must begin with the goal of reaching a mutual enthusiastic agreement, and they must keep negotiating until one is discovered. This forces each partner to develop a deep understanding of the other in order to achieve the desired objective. That understanding is something that you may have shared more naturally in your marriage many, many years ago, but as we've discussed, the demands of life can often change your relationship by the time you retire. Your enthusiastic agreement pact could apply to everything from financial decisions to vacation destinations to how you spend your time. Here's the point. It's a tool for reconnecting and for forcing you to communicate with a positive objective. Another key experts say is to make sure your relationship includes a good balance between activities you enjoy doing together and, yes, activities that you enjoy individually. Now that becomes especially important during retirement when a job no longer demands the bulk of your time. Think back to the interests and activities you shared when you first became a couple. Do you both still share the same interests? Do you still enjoy doing the activities and talking about them? If so, then make time for those activities again, even if individual activities may have become more important to each of you in later years. Continue to do your own things. Why? Because that's important also, but don't neglect the shared interests that help form your connection in the first place. It, yes, can go a long way toward rekindling that connection and strengthening your bond. You know, sometimes a change of scenery or an adventure can be just the right prescription for a troubled relationship. But again, communication is the most important key. So talk about it first. Work toward an enthusiastic agreement about where you want to go, what you want to do, what your goals are for the trip, what your budget should be, and how you plan to pay for it. The last one, yes, is important. Why? Because we've discussed financial issues are often an underlying cause or enhancement of stress among couples during retirement. It's as important to be upfront about money as it is to be upfront about every other aspect of your relationship. We'll be talking more about this in just a minute. Now it's time to welcome back Lisa Copeland, best-selling author, speaker, life coach, and dating expert. Lisa, thanks for sticking around.
Thank you, Dave.
So,
Fun being here.
Gee, you'd think by the time you get over the age of 50, you'd think you'd realize that the perfect man, the perfect woman doesn't exist, not around. But you're saying that actually the older you get, the more you stick to that ideal. That's, I would have expected like the Barbie and Ken aspirations to be at a young age, but you're saying it gets worse as we get older.
Definitely gets worse. I remember when I first started dating, I saw profiles by men that would say, I'm looking for this petite blonde-haired woman that wears this type of clothing, has this type of job. And by the way, women do the same thing. I'm looking for this kind of man with this specific job that he has who can take me out wherever. And we do that because we think that these external things are what's going to really make us happy. But, having someone who's a petite blonde may make you momentarily happy. What you really want over 50 is someone you can have fun with, someone you can have companionship with, someone you can play with. And it really has nothing to do with their hair or their clothes or their job. It has to do with how you connect with each other and how you communicate with each other and how much fun you have together.
So what you're saying is, as you get older, you think you have the more precise, more exacting picture of the person whom you want. But in reality, it's not the person that you want. You just don't realize it.
That's right. When you're younger, you're actually hunting for someone to have babies with. And since we're one of the first generations to be dating in our 50s, we're still dating that way. So people are looking for that youthful, vibrant person, which is great, but people are over 50. They're youthful and vibrant for being over 50, not 20. And yeah, they're looking for the perfect person who isn't going to make them happy. You know, how they interact with that person, how they feel around that person is what's going to make them happy.
What do people specifically have to watch out for who are widows or widowers? Because you get more and more of those when you get over 50. What are the gotchas there that people need to be aware of?
I'd say scammers. They'll play on your heart and they'll ask you for money. And it happens to men and it happens to women because all of a sudden you're getting all this attention from someone that is calling you all the time and really listening to you. They're very well trained to listen to your, what I call your Achilles tendon, your hurts, your pain. And they will identify with it and tell you they have it too, which helps you identify. And then that is when they come in for the scam of getting money from you. And it sadly happens all the time.
Okay. In the 30 seconds or so we have left in this segment, tell us what are the things you watch out for? You know, you're on a date. It's one of these historical ugly first dates that you read and hear about all the time. What do you watch out for that should be a flashing red light in someone's mind?
I think if someone's on their phone the whole time on a date or can't pay attention on a date, that's a huge red flag because, and they're actually saying, I'm not that interested in you. I would say that's the biggest one. And also asking a million questions that are like resume building versus just getting to know someone new and interesting. And talk about things from your past. It really makes a big difference.
You know, it's interesting. As you were talking about being on the cell phone, I could see out the corner of my eye our producer, Sarah, who's saying, that's a red flag. Can you stay with us for just a couple more minutes? I have one more question for you, but we have to take a commercial break. You stay with us too. We'll be back with more here on The Income Generation. I'm Dave Scranton, and we'll be right back.
David J. Scranton, Amazon bestselling author, money manager, and national TV host, is on a mission to educate baby boomers about the need to shift from growth to income. If you're at or near retirement, focusing on income over growth can make all the difference in the quality of your retirement. Each week, David educates America on his Newsmax TV show, The Income Generation, where he provides special reports and more to teach baby boomers about the income model.
Call now for a free copy of David's latest book. Go to soundincomestrategies.com/income to find out more.
If you're near or in retirement, head over to theincomegeneration.com and download your special report written specifically for the needs of the income generation. Again, those born before 1966. I'm David Scranton, and you've been watching The Income Generation. We'll see you all next Sunday. With Americans now living longer than ever before and staying healthier later in life, finding new love is no longer just an adventure for the young. According to one statistic, about half of all previously married adults remarry later in life, frequently after retirement. Unfortunately, statistics also show that many of these people don't adequately plan for remarriage and suffer severe consequences as a result. That means mental, emotional, and financial consequences. There are many unique factors to consider when entering into marriage or any kind of legally binding partnership later in life, whether it's for the first time or the second or third. How will the marriage impact your estate plan and affect the assets of each spouse? Will the marriage have tax consequences or perhaps create roadblocks down the road for medical assistance? What about pensions, Social Security, and alimony? Is it necessary to have a prenuptial agreement? These are just some of the important questions that need to be answered and issues that need to be addressed with the help of a qualified professional. So, let's talk about some of them in a bit more detail. First, the answer to that last question is yes. A majority of financial experts agree that a prenuptial agreement is a must for older Americans who are financially independent and engaged. A prenup helps protect the assets of each partner from confusion or misallocation in the event of death or divorce. The key to a good agreement is, again, open communication and clarity. Everything from bank accounts to stocks and bonds to silverware, all should be discussed and accounted for. Now, beyond the prenup, couples should be aware that pre-planning around each partner's assets and debts can be extremely complicated, but it's crucial. Individual debts can become joint debts after marriage. Commingling assets may make an entire account marital property, creating complications around allocations and beneficiaries. Many potential hazards can emerge, but they can also be avoided with proper planning. Now, as everyone knows, there are tax consequences to marriage also, but there are often even more when marrying or remarrying later in life. Many high-earning couples, for example, face new potential, as it's called, marriage penalties after tying the knot. They may also hit higher tax brackets when combining income. Marrying couples should be aware that their combined income could also affect the tax treatment of their Social Security benefits. You know, one of the biggest mistakes that some people make when marrying after retirement is neglecting to update their estate plan. Amending wills, life insurance policies, employment benefits with the help of a qualified estate planning attorney is absolutely essential. And, as I've often said, the most important reason for having and periodically updating your estate plan is to avoid confusion, avoid conflict, and family infighting over what happens to your assets after you're gone. Now, obviously, the potential for confusion and conflict can increase when a new spouse enters the mix. Equally important is careful planning around medical benefits, pensions, Social Security, and all other established sources of aid and income. Now, depending upon the situation, partners could be subject to losses in Medicaid and Social Security benefits after marriage. They could potentially lose pension benefits or alimony payments. Their combined assets could possibly disqualify them for Medicaid assistance or force them to pay more for Medicare benefits. Older couples need to be aware of these and other potential drawbacks before remarrying in order to protect themselves down the road. And, as we've been discussing all day, financial issues aren't the only challenges to a marriage or close relationship later in life. You have to anticipate all the lifestyle and interpersonal changes as well. Psychologists remind remarrying couples that their relationship affects not only themselves, but also their adult children, extended family members, and friends from previous marriages. Often these friendships don't survive the new relationship. Loyalties to one spouse or the other may prove too difficult for friends to deal with. And personality conflicts with the new spouse may just create distance or new hostilities. The bottom line is that if your path to a happily ever after relationship in retirement includes a new marriage, careful professional planning and honest communication are more important than ever before. And we're back here with Lisa Copeland, best-selling author, speaker, life coach, and dating expert. Lisa, thanks for humoring me and sticking around for just a couple more minutes here.
My pleasure.
You know, obviously you're the dating expert, and we talked about people who are widowed, dating, widows and widowers. But, you know, how about the people that maybe forgot to go on dates because they've been working, two spouses working, now they retire, bam, they're home together 24/7. What's the best advice that you can give those couples for staying together so that they're not out in the dating scene? If they're on a dating scene, they're going on more dates with each other.
So that's a great question. Number one, they need to find individual activities when they retire, because being together 24/7 can become exhausting, especially when you're not used to it. You're set in your ways, those types of things. The other thing is you want to really do a date night once or twice a week. Get back into feeling special about each other that way, because just staying home and eating dinner is not a date night. You want to do something special together that's fun, because that's going to bring back those heart feelings that you had originally when you're doing fun things that are out of your normal routine.
So you're saying if she makes dinner just because I'm willing to do the dishes, that doesn't really make it date night?
No. And just sitting and watching Netflix doesn't either.
See, and again, I see our producer Sarah sitting there saying, So I guess I'm the odd man out here. But Lisa, thanks so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate your insight. It was wonderful.
Thanks, Dave.
If you're near or in retirement, head over to theincomegeneration.com and download your special report written specifically for the needs of the income generation. Again, those born before 1966. I'm David Scranton, and you've been watching The Income Generation. And now it's time to welcome our next guest, Sherelle Ashford. She's been a matchmaker with the company South Florida Introductions for the last 27 years, and she also serves as the center director. She studied business and psychology in college and considers herself an expert in personality evaluation and memory. Sherelle, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So what happened? Someday you were 11 years old and you went to school and you said, you know what, when I grow up, I want to be a matchmaker. Is that how it all started?
Absolutely not. No, actually, I was in another business. And I was recruited for this at a time when there were no matchmakers. I fit all the bill for everything that a matchmaker should be. And I had, in my business, learned about personalities. I had taken every course and learned about that. And I decided that this would be a good opportunity for me to try it out and see if I could matchmake with that personality evaluation. So.
And obviously after 27 years, it worked out very well. You have a great track record. In fact, I read that you have, to your credit, 1,500 marriages, to your credit.
Absolutely, yes.
Over that 27 years. That's pretty impressive. That's even more than Zsa Zsa Gabor, I might add, you know, as a side note. But so now we're here with the income generation, those of us over the age of 50. What makes dating different when you're in your 20s and 30s from when you're over the age of 50? Tell our income generation members a little bit about that.
Well, when you're in your 20s or 30s, what you're looking for is, number one, chemistry. You're looking for religious commonalities. You're looking for income potential. You're looking for having children together. And that's very different than when you're older. You're not having children. Religion doesn't become as important. And success should already be there.
So success is there. So what are you looking for then in the 20 seconds we have left in this block? Just more compatibility? Is that the friendship?
When you're older, you're looking for the entire package. You're looking for the physical attractiveness, but you're also looking for the package. Security is very important, and compatibility.
It's funny, our last guest said the same thing. You didn't hear that interview. After the break, I want to ask you some more questions about that. And I'd like you to stay with us. We'll be right back in a moment here on The Income Generation. I'm David Scranton, and we'll be back in a moment.
David J. Scranton, Amazon bestselling author, money manager, and national TV host, is on a mission to educate baby boomers about the need to shift from growth to income. If you're at or near retirement, focusing on income over growth can make all the difference in the quality of your retirement. Each week, David educates America on his Newsmax TV show, The Income Generation, where he provides special reports and more to teach baby boomers about the income model.
Call now for a free copy of David's latest book. Go to soundincomestrategies.com/income to find out more.
For behind-the-scenes photos, retirement planning tips, and upcoming giveaways, follow The Income Generation show on Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch video clips, guest interviews, and to catch up on past episodes.
On an episode of The Income Generation earlier this year, we looked at the changing face of retirement and how many baby boomers are redefining what it means to be retired. We talked about how many Americans today are foregoing conventional retirements in favor of things such as new adventures, new jobs, living abroad, committing themselves to volunteer work, or sometimes even traveling around the country. Among the reasons for this trend are new financial realities in today's economy, as well as the fact that people are living longer and staying healthy later in life. But you know, there's another motivation for many people pursuing unconventional retirements, and it has to do with romance and relationships. Surveys show, for example, that a couple might decide to open a new business together after retirement as a way of reconnecting with one another over a shared interest, be it books, baking, or even beekeeping. As we mentioned earlier, making that kind of reconnection can be a great strategy for reestablishing the close bond that you had as a couple before work and family obligations became your top priority. You don't have to build your whole retirement around it, but some couples do choose to. Another strategy we mentioned for rebuilding or maintaining a relationship was adventure, which is why many couples today are opting to make their entire retirement one huge adventure by moving abroad or by downsizing their homes and living on the road. Some are even working and living out their entire retirements aboard cruise ships, traveling the world and meeting new people on a daily basis. Now, naturally, these types of retirements aren't right for everyone, and there's no certainty that any one strategy will avert trouble in a relationship or guarantee you that happily ever after retirement. But one point we've also stressed over and over today is that no matter the status of your relationship, and regardless of what your goals as a couple might be, yes, money does matter. In other words, your odds of achieving your goals while maintaining a strong, healthy relationship are greatly improved with a financial plan that reduces or eliminates money as a potential source of stress and division. As we've seen, retirement brings enough new stressors to a relationship as it is. Worrying about spending down your principal and running out of income or losing money to another major stock market crash only increases the stress and increases the tension. Or it can be the main source of trouble in an otherwise healthy relationship. And that's why I believe one of the very first steps after identifying your actual retirement goals should be to make that paradigm shift from a financial strategy focused on growth to one focused on income and portfolio protection. If you're a regular viewer, you know that starts with finding a financial advisor who specializes in income-based strategies. He or she won't have all the answers for how to maintain a good relationship or rekindle romance in retirement, but that person certainly can help you reduce or eliminate the likelihood that money troubles will be a source of relationship problems or ever add to those relationship problems at all. If you're near or in retirement, head over to theincomegeneration.com and download your special report written specifically for the needs of the income generation, again, those born before 1966. I'm David Scranton, and you've been watching The Income Generation. Now it's time to welcome back Sherelle Ashfort, matchmaker and center director for South Florida Introductions, based in Boca Raton, Florida. Sherelle, thanks again for sticking around.
Great.
So, okay, our last guest said this. Why is it that, it's like, you'd think that the whole Ken and Barbie syndrome, you'd get over it once you got into your 20s or 30s and realize that there is no perfect other person. But yet, as she said and you said, people as they age tend to expect more. They want perfection even though they know it's not out there. Why is that?
Well, I don't know that I agree with they want perfection. I think everybody's 10 is different. Everybody's version of perfect is different, and they just want that feeling. It's sometimes what you think is Ken and Barbie, but it really isn't. It's an emotion, it's a feeling. I always tell people, think about the person that you most loved in your life and lost for some reason or never had, and that person put the number 10 on their head. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that emotional connection.
Now, I want to hear this from you too. I asked our last guest this, but dating mishaps. Talk to me about some things that you tell people on the first date, if this happens, watch out for this. I know what my answer would be for that. What's your answer?
Well, there's a lot of things. I left my wallet at home. Would you like to share a meal or an appetizer? Why don't we have a drink? And then if it goes somewhere, we can have dinner. I get my car, you get in your car. It doesn't pay for valet. There's a lot of hints. But also, excessive texting or calling is another red flag as well.
A red flag. And excessive talking about oneself also, I would say, is
absolutely.
probably a red flag. So,
Yes.
When people get back to dating in their later years, is it that they're always looking to get married, or do you find these days that sometimes people are just happy just dating for the rest of their lives if they find the right person?
In fact, most clients coming to me that are older, one of the things they say in the interview are, I don't want to get married. I'm never going to get married again. And
Well, what percentage of those changes their mind when they find the right person, though?
60%.
Yeah.
So people do get married. I always say, be careful what you wish for, because people who say they're never getting married are typically the ones that get married.
Never say never. I love it.
Never say never.
We need to take one more commercial break, so stay with us here. And you stay with us too. You're watching The Income Generation, and I'm David Scranton. We're here with Sherelle Ashfort. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Income Generation. I'm David Scranton. We're here with Sherelle Ashfort, matchmaker and dating expert. Sherelle, okay, Tell me about the secret formula. You started off as an expert at understanding people's personalities. So what do you look for in determining whether one person is going to be compatible with the other?
Well, when it comes to personalities, everybody has a work personality and a true personality. Your work personality should be opposite of the other person's work personality, and your true personality should be the same. So if you're an overthinker, if you're an accountant, if you're a businessman, if you're a business owner, that's personality I call a controller. That personality needs to be with a doer, entrepreneurial, risk taker. And if your personality is nurturing, your true personality, you need another nurturer. So I combine that with looks, age, hobbies, lifestyle, religion, and we throw that all into a pot and we pre-select good matches for people. But we do backgrounds on everyone, so everyone is exactly who we represent them to be, as well as that personality matching. If you put that all together and there's the honesty, the accuracy, and we do professional photos.
So what is it though you're looking for in those background checks, since you mentioned that's a good point, that maybe if someone just out there dating on their own, that they really can't find out as well as you can?
Well, I would say anyone dating on their own needs to hire a background company, because the scammer that's going to take you for your identity is better at making you think he's the real guy than the real guy is. So what we look for is honesty, accuracy, history, financial stability, great work ethic. I'm looking for the whole package, the hobbies, the lifestyle, everything. We have close to 2,000 members, and we're member to member only. So anyone you meet, I will have met them, known them, done their personality, and feel that they're a good match for you.
30 seconds we have left. Tell our viewers who are married, who are now phasing into retirement, their life's changing, maybe they're trying to get to know each other again. Best words of wisdom for them to stay happily married.
Stay happily married, because the grass is not greener on the other side, and everybody looks for what they can't get. It's an 80-20 rule in our business. 80% of the people want 20% of the people. And it's very difficult to find the dream person when you're older. We have to make exceptions. We have to look at a different package when we're older than when we're younger.
Cheryl, I learned a lot from you today. Thank you. You know, it's funny when you talk about work people being different, but being the same in their personal lives. That explains why Teresa, my better half, and I get along so well. So thank you for that wisdom.
Great.
Thanks for being here. And you stay with us. We'll be right back here with more on the income generation. We'll be back in a moment. I'd like to thank both of our guests for joining us today for another episode of The Income Generation. I'd also like to thank you, our new and returning viewers. You know, so far this year on The Income Generation, we've done several episodes focused on the topic of health and retirement. We've shared expert tips and insights on how to maintain good physical, emotional, and financial health. And to a large extent, you could say today's episode was also focused on an important aspect of health. You know, every marriage or long-term relationship has its own degree of health. Sometimes it's very healthy, meaning both members of the couple are still happy to be together and to feel the same intimate connection they felt when they decided to make a long-term commitment to each other in the first place. And sometimes it can be very unhealthy, meaning negative feelings have driven a wedge between the couple and possibly even caused them to start questioning that long-term commitment. Every relationship will have its ups and downs, as we all know, just as no person gets through life without his share of illness or injury. But just as we can take preventative measures to improve our odds of staying healthy, we can also take proactive steps to maintain a healthy relationship. And as we've seen on today's show, that's especially important before and during retirement, which brings its own unique new challenges to marriage and relationships. The key to meeting those challenges is, as we've seen, planning and communication. It's being aware of the issues that might arise, discussing them honestly, and making them an integrated part of the overall retirement planning process. As we've also seen, any source of stress or trouble in a relationship can be made worse, sometimes much worse, by financial problems. Or financial issues could be the cause of trouble in an otherwise healthy relationship. If there's one overriding takeaway message I'd like to stress from today's show, it's this: don't let that happen to you. Make the shift to a retirement strategy focused on income and protection, and reduce the odds that financial stress will ever drive a wedge between you and your partner. Retirement should be the time to reconnect, to rekindle your romance and enjoy life with good health in every aspect of your life, including relationships. Thanks for watching. If you're close to retirement and really want to know how to protect and maximize your money, it's absolutely essential that you stay informed and up to date. And as you know, right here is where you can do it on the Income Generation. I'm David Scranton, and we'll see you right here next week. If you're near or in retirement, head over to theincomegeneration.com and download your special report written specifically for the needs of the income generation. Again, those born before 1966. I'm David Scranton, and you've been watching The Income Generation. We'll see you all next Sunday.